This video is brought to you by Squarespace. When it comes to websites, online stores, etc., there's no place to build a beautiful online presence like Squarespace. It's been maybe a little over a year since Animal Crossing New Horizons had one of the most well-timed releases ever. I don't even need to say what happened, but after what felt like a tornado of anxiety was plowing through my head, this game felt like the one pocket of clear skies that I could go to. I've always looked at films as a form of escapism, like everyone, and the theme I've noticed in my taste is an attraction towards stripped-down depictions of humanity. Anything that can use simplicity and a bare-bones structure to find as much meaning and truth out of what it means to exist in the world we live in is something not only strangely immersive, but also worth recognizing. And Animal Crossing New Horizons, without even being a movie, is one of the best examples of that. For anyone unfamiliar, which could be a lot of you never know, Animal Crossing is a Nintendo game where you, a human, I think, move into a town, in this case it's an island, and you kind of just build a community and do chores and pay off loans and talk to these animals and tell the ugly animals to get off your island, and you do that every single day. The only other game that I've talked about on here is Breath of the Wild, another very open-ended game, but even that has enemies and tasks and structure. Animal Crossing is about as loose as it gets. Animal Crossing is built in a way to be a form of escapism, like every video game is, but this one's a lot more wholesome than what a lot of games try to do, where not doing anything is sometimes the point. But playing isn't exactly a passive experience. You're always doing something in a way. You might be running around, you might be collecting supplies, you might be collecting fish, you might be designing your home, you might be waiting to catch stars. The catch, no pun intended, is that these tedious tasks don't really add up to anything, and I think that's where I find the most beauty in it. When the game first dropped, things really hit the fan. Maybe this is just my circle, but everyone I know was playing the game, and they were all playing the game a lot. How could you not at a time like March and April of 2020, a time where you couldn't really do much else? And I was one of those people. I'd log on every day and collect my hardwood and my iron nuggets, slowly moving through these tedious tasks to catch up as quickly as I could with my colleagues. I'm a naturally competitive person, and I give in very easily to hype. Just look at the emotional wreck I am during award season every single year. And this Animal Crossing phase was no exception. I made sure to carve out a few hours every day to make as much money as I could to pay off my loans quicker so that I could expand my house and get better villagers and build a path and put up some tiki torches, and I hit a wall with it. At a certain point, looking at some of my friends' islands, I gave up. I lost interest in having the best one because, quite frankly, my island looked like shit. Until maybe 2 months ago. Animal Crossing is a completely different game nowadays, and it's also the game I think it was meant to be for me all along. Since sometime in February, I've been casually booting up the game every day and doing the tasks I need to do. I finally got KK to come to my town. I built these little circular paths that I really like. I'm in the middle of building a big, beautiful garden on the cliff top. I feel very behind of everyone else, sure, but that doesn't really matter anymore. And now that I think I understand so much of why this game works for me, I'm fully invested. I think that character arc I went through is felt across the game's fan base. I don't think this game necessarily clicks for everyone, nor do I think it clicks for everyone immediately. I had the original GameCube version as a kid, and it still took me this long for me to understand the purpose. Change has always been a complicated word for me. See, I just graduated film school this last June, and things are going as well as they could be. I'm very grateful to be self-employed with a job that I enjoy doing, that supports me, and that has not been too affected by what the world is going through. My family and friends have all stayed healthy as of now, and I'm forever grateful to have them in my life. But that's not to imply this year has been perfect, especially for my mental health. Because for as consistent as these parts of my life are, everything changed around me in a sense that things stopped changing. Consistency and routine are terms that have always scared me as a 23-year-old who's itching to experience new things and learn from them. Sure, I've learned a lot in the last year, but not in a cool way, you know? For 11 months now, I've been telling myself, I miss change, but I also miss consistency. I think one of my favorite parts about Animal Crossing is KK Slider, this guitar player with a golden voice that comes into town every Saturday night to play a few tunes. A few weeks ago, after finally unlocking this beautiful feature, I sat and watched him perform amongst my villagers, and it was beautiful. After one song, I immediately asked for an encore, and then I asked for another, and then another, and then another, and I sat there not touching any buttons, just watching this video game dog sing unrecognizable lyrics to me. And I felt amazing. The concept of doing nothing felt so acceptable for about a year. Anytime you told someone, I don't know what I'm doing with my life and I'm not doing anything about it, it was most of the time met with, well, given the circumstances, that's fine. Which it was and still is. And with things a year later starting to shift back into the life we used to live, it feels like doing nothing is being reassessed, and as though this year-long break doesn't have an excuse to exist anymore. It's bittersweet, like when you're descending on a flight and watching your destination above you, excited to finally experience it all, but bummed that this period of time where you were allowed and forced to do nothing is coming to a close. Animal Crossing's seasonal differences are another aspect I really love about the game. Certain fish, bugs, and items are only available in certain seasons. Like, we just finished the winter season in the game, the only season where you can get snowflakes from what I know, and I'm not going to see an item like that until November or December. I don't know the specifics, maybe you can, I don't know. There are also island visitors like KK, who I mentioned earlier, as well as Red, Celeste, Wisp, Flick, I could go on. They show up and oftentimes give you a challenge, or have things to sell, or have things to buy, it kind of depends. They show up every now and then, but not every day, which means playing a little bit every day to check if they're there is worth doing. Stargazing is also something that can only happen at night and might take a little bit of patience to catch and wish on a star, but as a reward, star fragments show up on your beach the next day, which you can use to craft rare items. The Mabel sisters have different outfits that you can buy each day. Turnip prices, which is the stock market equivalent, also change each day. You can expand your house or build a bridge or an incline or plant a tree, but it may take a few days for them to fully form. My point is, patience is the backbone of Animal Crossing. It's a game built entirely on time and waiting. You can speedrun the game if you want by time traveling for sure, meaning you can go into the Nintendo Switch settings, change your date and time, and boom, you could be in a winter wonderland in the middle of June. I know a lot of people who did this near the beginning of the game, where they'd time travel so that days would go by faster, so they could farm new items, villagers would move in quicker. I don't judge that form of playing by any means, but I do question what there is to gain from that. The game rewards you regardless, sure, it can't really tell what you're doing, but you lose the time spent imagining and familiarizing yourself with the community you're building. Once again, this isn't me talking shit to those who time travel, it's just a great way of highlighting that this game is all about existing and waiting for things, doing the mundane, and how those parts of life are actually kind of nice. One of my favorite movies is Jim Jarmusch's Patterson, and it's one I've definitely been thinking a lot about recently. When it initially released, it was labeled as this movie where nothing happens. It's about a poet bus driver who just goes about his normal-ass life for a week. And similar to Animal Crossing, that's kind of the point of the movie. When conflict happens, it's something uncinematic, like a bus breaking down, similar to how the biggest conflict in Animal Crossing might be getting stung by a bee. But nevertheless, Patterson is just as hypnotic and immersive as any other movie for me. In fact, it might just be one of the most hypnotic movies I've seen. It romanticizes life's tedium in a way where you appreciate the routine, the repetitive work cycle, the normal, unconflicted lifestyle. There's something so beautiful about that to me. That conflict and obligations aren't good nor bad, they're just there. New Horizons for me, and so many others, has served as an escape for all of these reasons. Animal Crossing's biggest difference from real life, besides the talking animals, is the lack of physical activity. And I know that sounds goofy, like obviously we're not actually chopping down trees when playing the game, we're pressing 2 buttons at most. What you gain from that, when you take away all the physical limitations and just focus on the activity itself, the work you put into something you desire, it questions why you do something and why you don't. It's made me reassess an annoying task and the rewards to be gained from it, like writing this video, and that everything I do and receive is a product of what I put into it. There's no wrong answer in Animal Crossing. If you buy a fishing rod instead of building one, which is an option, the game doesn't punish you. You just lose 2,000 bells, and that's the end of it. It's an experience based not on a set of rules, but by what you do yourself. The game not having an end goal is what I think makes it such a timely piece of art. It's risky to make a game like that and assume people will have an urge to continue playing it, especially when the tasks are so mundane. It's why the fan base for this game is not completely universal, but extremely passionate. But it's the fact that the game is based on your own world and imagination, that the paths you walk on to complete these tasks were built by you. That's what keeps the drive going. We've all in some way curated our villagers and our island, especially when living in social bubbles for a year. And if there's one thing I've learned in the process of that, it's that if you want to listen to an animated dog sing unrecognizable lyrics for 20 minutes, I can't really argue against that. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. Before you head out, I want to give a quick thank you to this week's sponsor, Squarespace. Now, Squarespace, if you didn't already know, is a place where you can go online to build your brand and take that idea that you've had to the next step, whether that be through an online store, a blog, a portfolio, you name it. They have a wide array of award-winning designer templates to make whatever that website is look amazing, and they have 24-hour customer service to walk you through any issues you run into. The best part about it all is that if you go to squarespace.com/Karsten, you can get 10% off of your first purchase. As you can tell, there's really no reason not to give it a shot. I've been using Squarespace for years now, and I personally love it. So thanks so much for watching again. Make sure to check out Squarespace, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Now, oh me, quick, oh me, quick, oh, quick me, quick, oh, me, quick, oh, nah, oh me, quick, oh, quick me, quick.